All right, so Tuesday, what's today? Thursday? No, it's Friday. Uh, 2 days ago, I watched the season finale for the Acolyte, and I don't think I've ever been so let down and hyped up by a show before. You know what I mean? Like there were so many parts where I'm like, yeah, and then other parts I'm like, dude, why the hell did they do that? So, um, at first, I had just watched the first two episodes when they came out, and I really didn't think much of it. Like it just seemed, okay. I liked how it ended the second episode, and I didn't think there was anything like super particularly wrong with the show. You know what I mean? It's just that it didn't necessarily capture my interest very much in the beginning. I got on YouTube the next day because I usually put on some commentary or weird documentary about something dumb that I'm probably going to forget in the next couple of days while I clean. But regardless, there was a lot of like criticisms about the Acolyte that I thought were just really out there, you know what I mean? Like some people were getting off that there was a fat Jedi. I was honestly really shocked when I heard that. It just seemed like such a minute thing to be mad about, you know? I get that we haven't seen Fat Jedi before. Thought it was like some like when someone doesn't like something or someone, and so anything that that person does or that thing does, like it gets viewed in this negative light by somebody that just doesn't want to like it. Like a lot of the reviews kind of felt like that. Like a lot of people just didn't want to like Acolyte, and I mean that's fine if you didn't want to like it, to each his own. But at the same time, like complaining about a fat Jedi, I thought was just one of the most outlandish like complaints about the show. I mean, as someone who followed UFC for a while, watching Daniel Cormier or DC just kind of being dominant, even though he was kind of the smaller guy in the heavyweight division and stuff like that, just because he was a bit chubby, he really liked to eat, but he was still a badass. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, if I ever saw that guy, you can cut me in line. You want to eat my food? Here you go. Do you want to fuck my girlfriend, brother? That and the fire in space. Now that one really shocked me that people were mad about because I mean, how many other Star Wars movies and shows have had space battles and space explosions and lasers in space and all this other stuff that wouldn't happen in real space. I don't think that Star Wars has ever prided itself on being scientifically accurate. So I thought that was kind of one of those like really nitpicky things too. Like I get it if you know that there's no fires in space and you know how space works, I guess I can see it breaking immersion for you. But at the same time, it's like, have you never seen any other Star Wars movie before? You know what I mean? I hear people talking outside. There's a lady across the street talking on her phone on speakerphone. I could literally hear it. Like, jeez. I don't know about like you guys, but it's like those older people that you see like on their phones and stuff at the grocery store or whatever, and they just have their speaker on like the loudest setting that it can go to, the speakerphone on the loudest setting it can go to, and they're just talking on it like they can barely hear them. I'm like, bro, this is just what I have to look forward to, I guess. Side quip over. Yeah, there was a lot of things that I saw people complaining about that were super nitpicky that just kind of felt like they just didn't want to like the show. But I went into it with an open mind. I hadn't seen any of the interviews. I hadn't seen any of the trailers or anything like that, which I don't think there even was a trailer, but um, I personally, that's just how I like to digest media. I don't like to watch trailers or do anything like that. I just want to watch the full product and make my decision that way. Just because, like, typically when I watch trailers and stuff like that, I kind of form an opinion on what it is before I watch it, you know? And I'm not, I'm not immune to my own biases, so to try to bypass my own bias, I try to watch everything with like a clean slate, not knowing nothing about it. With Star Wars, it's a little different just because like I've been watching it since I was like 3 years old, so I do know a little bit more than the average cookie, I'd say, about the series. Um, but one thing I will agree with a lot of the reviewers and stuff of the Acolyte was that it was pretty, like, the writing of it was pretty bland. Like, there wasn't anything that when I was watching, that I was like, wow, I really didn't see that coming, or this or that. You know what I mean? I think that with one thing though is that I think that the writing probably seemed a lot better on paper than it was in execution, just because the way that it ended and the way that it started, and I think the grand picture of it is a lot better than looking at like the minuscule small picture, scene by scene stuff. Like when you look at it as a whole, it's okay, but it does have its problems. And try to keep it, spoiler free. But like one of my biggest complaints was Osha and May. I couldn't really tell much. Um, I couldn't tell them apart most of the time. That's what I was trying to say. They did feel like the same character a lot, which by the end of it, you kind of realize why they did that. But at the same time, it did feel a little gimmicky, I guess. I don't know. It almost seemed to like they threw that in, whatever it was at the end, to make up for Amanda's lack of acting ability. It felt like a cop out. That's the word. It felt like it was kind of like a cop out. Like there was a lot of people complaining of the same thing. May and Osha seem like they're just the same person. They used I guess, like fixed it with the writing. I don't really know, but it did feel like a bit of a cop out. So, but there was a lot of things I thought the show did right. One of the things I thought was cool was the choreography, or most of the fight scenes I thought were pretty cool. I don't know, man. A lot of the lightsaber scenes in particular were really cool. I liked the fight scene with Saul and May. Yeah, a lot of the fight scenes I can't really think of anything to complain about except for the Trinity lady when she like dropped the what's it called, the throwing knife or whatever. I thought that was a bit weird. Like, why not like throw it somewhere else, or keep it on your person as like evidence or some shit. I mean, like I said, the writing of the show is just, it's pretty mediocre, honestly. It's not great. And I mean, I'm not sure if this would really be classified as a spoiler, but in the show they mention the like Force Immaculate Conception thing where Anakin didn't have a father, kind of deal. It's not about Anakin, but they kind of go over it just a tad. So when I saw that, I was expecting Plagueis to make a appearance of some sort, because he's the only other person in the galaxy that has been mentioned with that sort of ability. Now, I know that Plagueis might have had to learn it from somewhere or something of that nature, but just having some random witch cult have this ability did seem like a bit of like it felt like someone was writing a fan fiction almost with the witch cult. Like, oh, there's these group of witches in there. It's only women, and they're not light or dark, and this and that. And I understand that, with the galaxy, there's going to be different types of Force users other than just Jedi and Sith. But they also went over this like a Force convergence thing or something like that, where like the Force is a lot stronger in certain places, which made me think that, oh, maybe this is more of like a Force god situation, with like the Mortis gods, or that one creature that from Rebels, when they went to the planet, I think it was in the last season, and they were like on the run from the Empire, and they ran into that one like Force being that was on the planet. I thought it might have been one of those situations, or like a Plagueis situation, and it turns out that it wasn't really either, or that they are working towards a bigger reveal. when you're coming at us with this acolyte thing where kind of like it's almost fan fictiony and stuff like that, you really got to sell it hard. You know what I'm saying? Like I also thought the dichotomy between Soul and I can't remember the guy's name, but the Sith guy. The dichotomy between them was pretty cool. I did like the theme of Jedi can make mistakes and they're not like always super good or super righteous or whatever because I mean you got to think about it from the perspective of like yeah they're pretty much just like a whole bunch of Buddhist monks, right? But they're also part of the Republic, you know, which comes with politics. You know, you got to lie sometimes, you got to embellish something sometimes and things like that. So I thought a lot of the side characters were interesting in The Acolyte as well. I didn't really care for May and Osha too much. Osha who wants to be good, May who wants to be bad, and that was kind of it. That was basically their characters. Things I did not like about the show. Well, first was the fact that it didn't really tie into the overarching plot of Star Wars, which I guess like I wish that when, you know, Disney comes out with these shows and before that they say that this is canon or that's canon or this is just a side story, whatever, that they kind of like maybe let it kind of cook for a little bit, you know, release the show, let it see how people react, see if it can tie into everything that's already been established and then say it's canon, you know. And I know that might be a letdown to some people when, you know, they're watching shows and thinking like, "Oh, this may not be canon or whatever," but man, I don't know, it did feel like a fanfic, which I don't have a problem with. I liked Star Wars Visions. There was the boys did something similar. That show, Diabolical, the boys Diabolical. I feel like they focused a little bit too hard on Osha and May's storyline, even though that they're the main characters. I get that. I think they should have maybe gone with other main characters and maybe did the Jedi rescuing the girls as season one, or say I say rescuing, which is a matter of perspective, but you know the Jedi's intervention on the planet as season one. Then we could have got to know the Jedi a little bit better and the witches a little bit better because me personally when I was watching it, you know, even removing the idea that Jedi are all good people, it felt like the witches were antagonizing them, you know what I mean? Like wanting them to attack. And maybe that was for a reason, but it just felt like am I supposed to be rooting for the witches or the Jedi here? You know what I'm saying? Cuz on one hand, I get it. They're on your home planet. They're doing this and that. You don't really agree with their ideologies and blah 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 blah. But you know that Jedi aren't just gonna, you know, go flippity dippity and go all I'm gonna blow this place up just because I feel like it or something like that. So this is how I saw the show playing out, right? Once they started, you know, once they created Osha and May, and they're not necessarily light side, Plagueis came in at some point and introduces himself as Plagueis the Wise or something like that, you know, without the Darth, without the dark side influence and stuff, and just coming at them like normal people, letting them be and stuff like that. And then he shows them the, you know, force conception ability or whatever, and they start using it. Then they slowly corrupt and become the Night Sisters of Dathomir. I thought that's what was going to happen. Probably would contradict some things that are already established in canon or legends or whatever, but I legit thought it was going to be a story of Darth Plagueis corrupting the Night Witches, or not the Night Witches, but the witch cult of whatever that planet was called. Like I thought the Jedi were there because they were trying to track Plagueis and stuff like that. Not that it was some force convergence and there's this and it just seemed like they were just trying to add things to it, but there's so much, you know, already established within Star Wars canon. You don't really have to look that far, you know what I'm saying? And you know the whole like I don't know, it just seemed like their focus was really like split, like they were trying to cram so much into 8 episodes. Like we got to do this force convergence, we got to have the immaculate conception, we got to have these twins and blah blah blah. And it's like, yo, you are doing too much. Now for the last section, you can just exit out if you don't want to talk about this shit. But there's a definitely like a feels like a political agenda that a lot of the people that have been reviewing the show, I guess, exhibit this sort of. They don't like the main actress because she made a comment 5 years ago that was not friendly towards Caucasians. Now, just to put this into a bit of context, I'm not defending her actions, but she was maybe like 19 or 20 at the time, and she was promoting a movie called The Hate You Give, which was a movie not really for Caucasians, you know? It's kind of like with the Acolyte and how they talked in the interviews a lot about this is the gayest Star Wars and things like that. And I know I said in the beginning of this that I didn't see any of the interviews before I watched it, and I didn't. I had only seen these interviews after I had watched the first two episodes, and a lot of people were digging up those clips and stuff. So again, it's not a defense, but the movie wasn't necessarily marketed towards Caucasians, and it was made by someone that was really young. And I don't know about y'all, but I said a lot of dumb at 19 and 20, a whole lot. I mean, if you don't like the actress, you don't like her comments, I think the best thing that you could probably do is not watch the show. All I'm saying is, when you're at a really impressionable age and you grew up, you know, being a Hollywood actress, there's probably not a whole lot of people telling you no. That doesn't take anything away from The Acolyte as a show. Like, it almost seems like people saw that Amanda was in it. They saw that it was advertised with these interviews as being a gay Star Wars, and everyone just got mad, like, the moment that that stuff came out. And it's just one of those things. If it's for gay people and you're not gay, you don't have to watch it, you know? If you don't like Amanda from her comments that she made when she was still practically a teenager, then don't watch it. Like, I don't know, man. I think a lot of it is just this whole war on wokeism, I guess you would call it, where people just watch and they think, oh, this is woke or this is based or whatever acronym that you want to use. People are talking like, oh, well, the Star Wars fans are mostly white. The Star Wars fans are mostly white. Can they branch off and try to like connect with other people? You know what I mean? Like, just because Star Wars fans are mostly white does not mean that it has to cater to that fan base all the time. Miley Cyrus and JoJo Siwa, both child singer star thingies, whatever you want to call them, branched off and wanted to do like more adult music and stuff like that later on. And when it comes to Star Wars, man, when it comes to the nerd kingdom, bro, I felt like this was like the most accepting clique that you could get into. Like, even back in high school, you know, I didn't really click up with any of the other kids like that just because, you know, I'm Hispanic, but I don't speak Spanish. I'm native, but I'm not really native. So I didn't really click up with those guys. I grew up in a rough area, but I didn't really click with the black people. And I never really clicked with the white people because, you know, it's mostly either the preps or the country people, at least where I'm at. So that kind of left me with, you know, little to no choices of being with the nerds and the rejects and things like that and blah, blah, blah. And every time, bro, like, we would always talk shit about each other's race or weight or whatever the fuck like that. But it was never coming from, like, a place of, I'm superior than you, or to try to put you down just to put you down. You know, we're all just trying to make each other laugh. It's so annoying because, like, you can't even watch a fucking YouTube reviewer nowadays without somebody bringing up wokeism or just talk about the show. I don't give a shit about what Amanda said 5 years ago. I don't give a shit about what the interview says or the interviewers. I care about the content that got put out. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately, man, it's just been like a fest watching this. Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, and all them are no better. They're no better, man. Like, the fans are attacking them, and so they attack back and talk about, I don't like the Force being a woman. Like, why? Why would you even assign a gender or a sex to the Force, which is supposed to be like a god almost, you know? You do not have to gender the Force. If you were to ask me, As someone who's been watching Star Wars for like 25 years now, what gender is the Force? I would have said it's agender or non-binary or something like that, where it's not either. So I was kind of like, I that blew my mind too. It just seems like, again, like what flavor of idiot do you want to be? Do you want to be the Disney flavored one where you just defend everything that's fucking stupid and then you add it on top of it to make a dumb cake, or do you want to be the other flavor of idiot that just attacks it for every little thing? But after all this, I just gotta say, I probably just watch Star Wars like for fun now, like not as like a I need to watch this kind of deal. It's be like, oh, there's a new Star Wars thing coming out. All right, I guess I'll watch it. I can't really classify myself as a fan if the fans only want, I don't know, white dudes being badasses or whatever. But all in all, I think the show was pretty good. It wasn't anything to write home about, but it wasn't anything that was anywhere remotely close to as bad as people were saying. Some of the complaints, man, just felt really nitpicky. Some of them, a lot of the criticism about the writing is understandable, but pretty much everything else was just super nitpicky. I personally give the show about, I don't know, a 5 or 6 out of 10, 5.5. I'll give it a 6 just for the fight scenes. I thought the fight scenes were really good, and as a kid, that's kind of what drew me in to Star Wars, was the fighting, the choreography. Like episode 3 was my favorite, and as a kid, it was just because of the badass fighting. But as an adult, badass fighting's awesome. But the storyline for the prequel trilogy, to me, was peak. But people will disagree with me, and that's fine. Ultimately, man, if you like Star Wars for the fighting, you'll probably like the Acolyte. But if you're more of like a fan of the original trilogy, you're probably gonna hate it. So really, the Star Wars The Acolyte is okay. It's not horrible, but it's not great either, and that's pretty much that. I can't really think of anything to add about the show or to whatever, but yeah, man, it's been real, y'all. Do that thing that other YouTubers tell you, and later.